Why does Soo Hyun's name keep surfacing every time Sulli's tragic death is mentioned? Years have passed, yet the silence, the unanswered questions, and the rumors refuse to fade. Was it just coincidence? Or is there a hidden truth behind the whispers that won't go away? As speculation resurfaces and public curiosity intensifies, Red Carpet Revealed takes a closer look at the connections, the timeline, and the scandal that continues to shadow one of Korea's biggest stars. Let's uncover the truth, right now. It started with a silence so heavy it became deafening. When the news of Sulli's death broke in October 2019, the entertainment world seemed to freeze. Fans wept. Fellow idols collapsed in grief. Entire broadcasts were cancelled. Moments so raw, so incomprehensible, that even the hardest voices on the internet went quiet, if only for a brief, fleeting moment. But as is often the case with tragedies, silence didn't last. And in the aftermath of mourning came the questions. Not just about why, but about who. And one name, whispered again and again across fan forums, comment sections, and anonymous blogs, refuses to disappear: Soo Hyun. To this day, years later, his name is still linked, uncomfortably, inexplicably, to Sulli's. Not officially. Not through any confirmed connection. But through speculation. Through screenshots. Through old videos resurrected with new captions. And most of all, through his silence. Why didn't he say anything? Why didn't he post a tribute, attend a memorial, or acknowledge her publicly? And why, every time Sulli's name trends, name follow close behind? To understand the weight of these rumors, we must first understand who Sulli really was. Born Choi Jin-ri, Sulli entered the spotlight at an age when most children are still learning who they are. She debuted as a child actress and then re-emerged as a K-pop idol with the girl group FX. While her charm, beauty, and bold personality quickly turned her into a star. But Sulli was never one to fit the mold. As her fame grew, so did a refusal to be boxed in. She spoke candidly about mental health, wore what she wanted, lived how she pleased. She laughed at internet trolls and refused to bow to the rigid expectations placed on female idols. And for that, she was both adored and vilified. The media labeled her controversial. Netizens dissected every photo, every post. But beneath the confident exterior was a young woman dealing with crushing loneliness, anxiety, and depression. Her honesty, once applauded, became ammunition. She was too loud, too different, too much, and ultimately, she became too fragile for a world that never truly protected her. When she passed away, tragically by suicide, the world mourned in confusion and guilt. How had it come to this? How could someone so vibrant have been so broken inside? The news cycle flooded with tributes, retrospectives, and apologies. Fellow idols posted heartfelt messages. Fans created memorials. Politicians even called for reforms in online anonymity laws. But not everyone spoke. And among those who remained silent, Soo Hyun's name stood out. Their connection was never fully public. There were no dating confirmations, no joint projects in the mainstream. But those who paid attention to the undercurrents of the industry remember the whispers, the shared friend circles, the blurry photos at private events, award show where they sat 2 rows apart and exchanged glances when they thought no one was watching. Back in 2016, an old variety show clip surfaced where Sulli mentioned a very kind oppa who helped her during a particularly difficult time. She didn't name him, but the internet did. Fans compiled timelines, matched interviews, compared clues. A certain fan community claimed to have proof they were closer than publicly known. Others dismissed it as wild speculation. Still, the idea stuck. Soo Hyun had always been private. Painfully so. Known for his professionalism, near-perfect image, and selective roles. He avoided gossip like the plague. He was rarely seen at public events unless he was promoting a project. He had no social media at the time. Almost never spoke about personal matters. So when he said nothing about Sulli, many chalked it up to his usual discretion. For others, that silence felt suspicious. As in the days following Sulli's death, dozens of industry peers, some with less direct connection than Soo Hyun, shared their grief publicly. IU, Sulli's close friend, was seen in tears and posted a black image with no words. Even celebrities from different generations offered condolences. Kim Soo Hyun. There was not a single sound. An old video of Sulli smiling brightly at Kim Soo Hyun during a variety segment began trending again. The caption read, "She looked at him like he was home." A resurfaced tweet from a stylist claimed that they had once worked together at a closed-door commercial shoot. He was protective of her, the tweet said. Very gentle, very quiet. Like he knew what she was going through. No one could confirm it. But the speculation only grew stronger. Bloggers began writing threads with titles like "The Man Sulli Could Never Name" and "Kim Soo Hyun's Unspoken Grief." Entire YouTube essays were created, complete with slow-motion footage, speculative timelines, and dramatic voiceovers. None of it proved anything. But in a digital world starved for meaning, silence became its own kind of statement. Silence haunted fans. One popular fan post that went viral read, "He didn't owe anyone a statement. But when someone as bright as Sulli dies, someone as respected as Kim Soo Hyun says nothing at all, it feels cold. Not guilty. Just cold." The Korean phrase, "silence is consent." In the digital age, silence is also suspicion. No matter how private or reserved a celebrity is, the public often demands performance in grief. A post, a black and white photo, a single candle emoji. Of that came from Kim Soo Hyun. Some interpreted it not as discretion, but as emotional detachment, or worse, hidden shame. Of course, there's another perspective. What if he didn't speak because the pain was too personal? One anonymous source who claimed to be close to the actor told a tabloid, he mourned in private. He didn't want to make her death about himself. That silence wasn't guilt, it was respect. But the internet doesn't always reward restraint. Each time Kim Soo Hyun releases a new drama, especially one with emotionally heavy themes, the cycle begins again. Comment sections fill with reminders. Still haven't said anything about Sulli. Can't enjoy this knowing how he ghosted her memory. Why does he always play broken characters but never talks about real pain? Even years later, the shadow of Sulli's death hangs near his name like a fog that won't clear. And the most haunting thing of all? No one knows if the rumors are even remotely true. But they persist. Because silence gives rumors room to grow. As part 1 closes, the question remains. Kim Soo Hyun hiding something? Or are we simply projecting our own need for closure onto someone who never asked to carry this weight? Either way, the rumors won't stop. Silence only gets louder. Kim Soo Hyun has built a career on silence. Not the absence of words, but the emotional stillness of characters who speak volumes through a restraint. Whether playing a lonely alien, a mentally scarred royal guard, or a trauma-ridden caregiver, he's made a name out of not needing to explain. But when real life mimics fiction, when the quiet becomes too quiet, audiences grow uneasy. And in the case of Sulli's death, his silence has become the void everyone wants to fill. Years after her passing, the online obsession hasn't faded, it's evolved. Theories are more elaborate, the speculation more organized. Reddit threads dissect timelines. TikTok edits pair slow-motion footage of Sulli and Kim Soo Hyun with melancholic ballads. YouTube channels promise the truth they don't want you to know. That keeps fueling this relentless speculation. The answer lies partly in Korea's relationship with grief, and even more so, in its obsession with answers. Sulli's death was not just tragic, it was unjust. She had asked for help. She had spoken openly about pain. And still, the system failed her. There were no arrests, no clear villains, just digital ghosts. And when there is no clear villain, the public often creates one, or at least someone who should have done more. So when Kim Soo Hyun, arguably one of the most influential figures in her circle, said nothing, it felt, to some, like betrayal. But others argue that his silence was more than justified. A former entertainment reporter who had covered both stars spoke anonymously in a podcast. People forget these are humans, not characters. What if he did grieve? What if they were close and it hurt too much? What if the silence was the only way he knew how to survive it? Still, the mystery lingers. And perhaps what unsettles people the most is that the silence wasn't followed by closure. In the years since, Kim Soo Hyun has continued working. Each comeback is met with success, but also shadowed by whispers. During the press tour for his drama It's Okay to Not Be Okay, one reporter asked what inspired his performance in such an emotionally loaded role. Kim smiled, paused, answered vaguely, "Everyone has darkness. That's what makes us human." That clip was uploaded to YouTube with the title, "Was He Referring to Sulli?" Every pause, every vague quote, every sigh is reinterpreted through the lens of the unresolved. He's desperate for connection right into everything, his fashion choices, song preferences. The book spotted in the background of magazine shoots. A loss? A poem about guilt? Surely it means something. But what if it doesn't? What if the tragedy of Sulli's death is not that someone failed her, but that no one ever truly could have saved her? One voice that often gets ignored in this conversation is that of mental health professionals. Dr. Soo Hyun, a psychiatrist and advocate for celebrity mental health, wrote a powerful opposite the editorial page shortly after the resurgence of the Soo Hyun rumors. In it, she stated, "It is natural for the public to grieve through attachment figures, celebrities, friends of the deceased, anyone who represents hope or accountability. But when we turn mourning into a witch hunt, we risk re-traumatizing both the living and the legacy of the one we lost." And yet, it's not easy to shut down the human need for answers. For someone to carry the guilt we don't know how to hold. One anonymous insider from Soo Hyun's agency broke silence in 2022, claiming, he cried when he heard the news. But he didn't want to post something that would turn into a headline. He said, "This isn't about me." That same insider claims that Soo Hyun sent flowers privately to the family, and that he attended a small prayer service at a temple weeks later. But none of that was public. Court of public opinion. What isn't seen might as well not exist. Meanwhile, Sulli's legacy has grown into something both beautiful and tragic. Her advocacy for mental health is now seen as pioneering. Young idols mention her name with reverence. Documentaries explore her life with fresh compassion. Every tribute is still followed by comment threads that spiral into blame. Where were the men who called her friend? Why didn't more of them speak? At the center of those comments is Soo Hyun. It raises an uncomfortable question: do we demand celebrities to mourn publicly because we care about their emotions, or because we want a performance of grief? And when they don't give it to us, do we turn them into symbols of our own unresolved pain? The truth may never be known. Perhaps they were close. Perhaps they weren't. Perhaps he carries guilt. Perhaps he carries nothing but sorrow. But the tragedy here is that silence has become a story more viral than any fact. And in that silence, we reveal more about ourselves than we do about Soo Hyun. It's a cycle. Sulli trends. Rumor resurfaces. Netizens demand statements. Soo Hyun stays silent. And the absence becomes louder. It repeats, every year. Without resolution. In an era where celebrities are expected to share everything, from their morning routines to their breakdowns, Soo Hyun remains an outlier. And maybe that's what makes him a magnet for this kind of scrutiny. He refuses to give the internet what it wants. And so, the internet fills the gap. The final image of Sulli that remains with many is one of a girl who lived brightly, spoke freely, burned too quickly. And perhaps it feels unbearable to believe that she simply vanished without a larger narrative. So we invent one. And whether fair or not, Soo Hyun became a part of that narrative, not because of what he did, but because of what he didn't do. In the end, we all wanted a reason. A resolution. Someone to blame, or at least, someone to say something that made the silence easier to bear. But there was only silence. And from that silence, rumors grew. And now, years later, don't let go of him. Maybe Soo Hyun did nothing wrong. Maybe he mourned in a way only he will ever understand. Maybe he has a drawer full of unsent letters. Memory he guards too closely to speak aloud. Maybe we simply need someone to carry the weight that none of us know how to carry ourselves. So the next time Sulli trends, Soo Hyun's name follows, ask this. Covering the truth? Or are we trying to write an ending that grief never allowed us to finish? Thank you for reading this emotionally complex and difficult journey. At Red Carpet Revealed, we believe some stories deserve to be told, not to judge, but to understand. And in remembering Sulli, let's also remember that silence doesn't always mean guilt. Sometimes, it means sorrow too deep to share. Next time, stay kind, stay open, and don't let grief turn into blame.